Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and we're back out here in the garage for another First Impressions video. So, once again, I have to give the caveat, this is not a review. If you see the title of this video, do not assume it is a review. This is just a video that I make on my second channel, hence the Texas Gun Vault 2, which is just my behind-the-scenes channel where I get to converse with my biggest fans. And this is a series where when I take guns to the range to film content for, to make reviews on my main channel, I simply come back here to the garage and just give you my first impressions on how they performed, what happened, and then later, after editing the range footage and spending a little bit of time writing a script, I will produce a proper review, which goes on the main channel. And if you're interested in that, there is a link in the description below. All right, so I just got home from the range, and today was another one of those days where nothing really seemed to go well. I took two guns to the range. One, I'm going to say more affordably priced. The other one's a little bit higher end. Let's go over the affordable one first, the Kel-Tec CP33. Now, I have actually reviewed this gun in the past, a long time ago. And I had problems with it. And people told me, you're doing it wrong. This is an amazing gun. Kel-Tec makes such innovative products. You really need to review that again. So I took it back to the range. And thank you, Jack number 1, for lending this to the channel again. So let's talk about what happened. This thing was an absolute nightmare to shoot. Now, there is something that's really, really positive about this gun. This gun is a tack driver. So when I was actually able to get this gun to run reliably, which was not very often, this is one crazy accurate gun. And so I'm really sad that I was not able to get this gun to run reliably. So what is the Kel-Tec CP30? Or CP33, I guess. Well, it's all built around this guy. This is a quad stack 22 long rifle magazine. Now, already, if you understand cartridges and basic engineering, you already know we got a problem. The first problem is 22 long rifle is a rimmed cartridge. And rimmed cartridges typically do not feed well in magazines. They're designed for things like revolvers or pump action guns. You can make them work, and we all know there's very famous and reliable 22 long rifle pistols and rifles that are semi-auto. So we've done this before, but normally those are only 10 rounds. That's why Ruger and Glock typically on their stock guns only have 10 rounds. They do have more extended magazines, but often the more rounds, 22 long rifle you put into a magazine, the more issues you're going to have. And this is a very complex magazine because it has two columns that are double stack that feed into one feed ramp. And the feed ramp is built into the magazine. And you can see see if I can get it in focus, right in here. So it's definitely a different design. And I always give Kel-Tec a lot of credit for their innovation. Now, the issues I had when I reviewed this in the past was reliability. I could not get this gun to feed. And people told me you have to be very, very careful when it comes to loading the magazines. You have to make sure that none of the rims overlap. So I was very careful. People also say that these guns are ammo sensitive, meaning they like certain brands. And based off of what I've seen online, some people, they get these right out of the box and they run everything. Some of them run well with cheaper stuff, but not the more expensive stuff. Some of them run great with the more expensive stuff, not the cheaper stuff. So I took 5 different ammo types to the range. Not a single one of them would feed reliably past 9 rounds. The best was CCI Mini Mags. So the very first shots I had with this gun, I think I put Winchester, whatever, bulk ammunition in it first. Loaded it up, full capacity. Well, it had a hard time feeding the rounds, like it just didn't have enough spring pressure to pick up that round, put it in the chamber. Then, if it did cycle, the round would often kind of nosedive into the feed ramp and not load. Now, I made sure, as I said, to be very careful as I inserted the rounds to make sure I did not overlap those rims. I didn't put one rim behind the previous one that was loaded. So I could not get through the magazine here, but I discovered the more rounds that I got through the magazine, it started to run a little bit better. By the time I got to about 15, which is about half its capacity, it ran okay. And then once I got under 10, I almost had no issues. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this is one of those ammo-sensitive things. So I moved on to CCI Mini Mag, something on the other end of the spectrum of quality. And I had about the same reliability, except once I got to about 12 rounds in the magazine, it began to run great. Then I tried some more cheap stuff. What is it? The Aguila. And same issue. And at that point, I was kind of done because these magazines take a long time to load. And then once you get 15 in there, and let's say you're having a ton of stoppages, the only way to really unload these magazines is to take the base plate off and dump the rounds out. It's just a nightmare. So I know there's a lot of reviews out there where people shoot this great, they don't have any problems. They say they run great, they're reliable. I did not experience that, and I really hope that my friend Jack, who lent this to the channel, can once again tell me what his experiences are with this gun. I was very careful, as I mentioned, to not mix up the rims. Very careful. I also made sure to oil the gun before I went to the range. So I did everything people said to do to make this gun run well, based off of all the reviews and all the things I've seen. And honestly, if this gun had run well, after loading it correctly and oiling it and making sure everything is just perfect, I still don't like the fact that you have an ammo-sensitive gun that needs to be prepared, loaded in a very specific way. When you get an affordable gun, now this might not be the cheapest in Kel-Tec's lineup, okay? But we all know that Kel-Tec is not a top-tier gun company. They have the innovation, but they don't have the build quality. And so you have a gun that's going to be marketed and bought by people that might be on a budget or might not be as, shall we say, as much into the gun world as maybe some of us are. You know, like, for example, if we buy a high-end Infinity 2011, we understand the tight tolerances. We also have the budget to go, okay, it runs very specific ammo, a very specific grain weight. You're able to track all that down, runs very specific mags. But people that are buying Kel-Tecs simply want to take these to the range and have fun with them. These should be no nonsense, easy to use, easy to load, and generally very reliable. And that is not what I experienced. So I was only able really to do 3 tests with it. I even took a suppressor, one of my suppressors, to the range. I was going to run this thing suppressed, but I never got to it. So I have my first magazine, which I barely get through. My second magazine of like CCI Mini Mags, I barely get through that. And then I realized, though, the gun was super accurate, so I did do a like a 9-round or 10-round 25-yard test with it just from the bench, and it shot great. But yeah, I was not able to complete the review on this, so I'm not really sure how I'm going to present it. And I know that when I do present it, I'm going to get all the Kel-Tec lovers that are going to say that I'm a terrible reviewer. I don't know what I'm talking about. I hate Kel-Tec. But then I'm going to have to tell them, go look at my last couple of Kel-Tec reviews. I actually liked them. I found a lot of positives about them. And this one, I just don't. So I'm really sorry. I did my best with this one. So I don't know how I'm going to structure this video. I just know it's going to make people mad. And I do not know what the magic mojo is to make this gun run right. And so I just can't imagine your average Joe Schmo that goes to a gun shop or a gun show that's not like you or I, sees this and goes, wow, that's the coolest thing ever. 33 rounds of 22 the long rifle, that's amazing. And they're not going to sit there and go, okay, let me make sure that every rim is perfect in this and the stars have aligned and let me make sure there's oil and all these. They're not going to think that way. They're just going to go, because a lot of them don't even clean their guns, are just going to go right to the range and try to shoot the thing and have issues. But I don't know how there were so many reviews out there, these things running like tops. I couldn't do it, okay? I like to think I'm pretty knowledgeable and experienced with guns. I just couldn't do it. So if you know what the Magic Mojo is, you tell me. So I got to figure out how I'm going to present that one. All right. Now let's go to the next gun that I reviewed. I took to the range the Staccato HD. Now this is their new Staccato. 2011 pistol that takes Glock mags. Yes, it takes Glock mags. And I actually did run it with some real Glock mags as well. They have their own magazines that are made of metal, but I just wanted to make sure that the real, honest-to-God Glock mags worked in this thing. And they do. So let me tell you about how it shoots first. I told you when I got the upcoming projects video out on this gun, handling it here on the workbench, it was pretty nice. Like, this grip is awesome. It's the perfect angle, the perfect size for me, perfect texture, and that definitely holds true when I took it to the range. This thing feels great in my hand. It also is extremely accurate. Now, is it the most accurate 2011? No, it's close to it though. I mean, this is one of those guns that I honestly could not miss with. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. This is exactly what I would be looking for in a 2011. And it's not the fact it takes Glock mags that I like. It's the fact that because it takes Glock mags, the dimensions of it are much more ergonomic for me. It's the perfect size. I think it's kind of a compact 2011, and it's accurate as all get out. It's awesome, okay? Now, I did have an issue with this, okay? And some of this is D's fault, and I've already called him and told him because he lent this to the channel, and he comes kind of joking about it. He apologized for a mistake. And then part of it is Staccato's fault. So the gun would be getting a 5 out of 5 star plus review if it wasn't for this one thing. So I was in the last portion of the review, which I normally do is like the mag dump test. So I took one of those 33 round Glock mags. You guys know like the big long ones. And I just wanted to do a mag dump with it. I was like, hey, if it takes Glock mags, you got to, use one of those magazines for the mag dump. That's just the way it has to go. So I was in the middle of filming that and dumping the magazine. And then all of a sudden, the red dot comes flying off and hits me in the face. Yeah, the gun fell apart. Now, at first I was thinking to myself, okay, I know that I checked these screws before I went to the range because I always check screws and stuff to make sure everything's nice and tight. Now, I did not take them off, but I just made sure that they were tight and snug, and they were. So I didn't think there was an issue. And then this thing, and I caught it on tape, it's going to be a funny clip. This thing comes back and hits me in the face. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, did I shear off the bolts? What the heck happened? So I had to get on the ground, and I found the bolts, or the screws. And these look like they have Loctite on them. But I messaged D. I was like, hey, got a question about your Staccato and the red dot. And I think he knew where I was going with it. He goes, I installed it. And I was like, okay. He didn't put Loctite on it. So he borrowed these screws from something else, and he didn't put Loctite on them. So throughout the review, I guess they came loose. It came off, hit me in the face. Now, I'm okay. Nothing got hurt. I was wearing eye protection, all that kind of stuff. But then I realized this design, I think, kind of sucks. So what Staccato has done, and what they're bragging about when it comes to this particular mounting system, is that whether you're running an RMR or an SRO, or I guess any red dot depending on what plate you have, it mounts lower than all other red dots. So they really have it as low on the slide as they possibly can make it. In fact, you can see here on the back, right there where the hammer travels, and you can see where that red dot's plate is. I mean, there's like no room whatsoever. They got that thing as low as they possibly could. That's pretty impressive. But here's the problem. You guys saw that I took 2 screws out of the red dot, which are the typical ones that hold it on. Now, I don't know about you, and maybe I'm just not super experienced in all these optic stuff, but every other red dot optic that I use and have mounted to guns, the optics plate that attaches to the pistol is attached by screws as well. Okay, maybe there's some out there that don't use screws. They almost always have screws on the plate, which attach it to the pistol, and then you take the red dot and using screws, attach it to the plate. This system doesn't have that. So this optics plate, you can see it only has 2 screw holes, and that is where the screws go through the red dot onto the plate, which means those 2 screws hold in the optic and the plate. That's the first issue, because I think that's lazy, but maybe they had to do that for the height of it. But here's the other issue. Because it's so low, and here's the top of that slide, when that optic fell off the gun, obviously the plate went with it, the screws went with it, and then I also had, and I'm glad that I found it because I had no idea, this little plunger right here, which goes into the top of the slide, right there. And I noticed that when I run the slide, I can see it kind of go up and down as it moves on the rail. So obviously it does something. I want to say it's a firing pin block is kind of what I think it is. Yeah, so like when I pull the trigger, it pushes that up and out of the way. So that's the firing pin block. But it definitely looks like it's supposed to have, let's see if I can get it focused there again, a spring on it. And trust me, I looked everywhere for that spring. And on the range floor with all the other ammunition, all this stuff, it was gone. I have no idea. It's a small spring. So it's gone, it's lost. So D has to get another one from Staccato. And the reason I say this is a crappy design is that when you remove the plate, if you're not aware of that, you can obviously drop that spring and lose it. But if by chance what happens, or what happened to me happens to you, this comes off, you potentially can lose this little plunger and that spring, like I did. So this is why I think this optics plate needs to have its own screw that mounts to the gun, that hold it down, because you have other parts under it that are relying on the plate being on the slide to keep everything working. Now, once I found the parts that I could, minus the spring, I tried shooting this gun again after reattaching the red dot, and it ran, except a couple of times it didn't reset. So I don't know if that plunger has anything to do with it and that spring. But I was able to finish the review. But obviously there's a problem. And this, I think, is a bad design for an optics plate. So what do you guys think? The other thing I noticed, which was kind of interesting, is we do have a couple of holes that are drilled into this, which correspond to the little raised portions in the optics plate. You can see those little bumps there. But there's one that looks like it's missing, like right up here, like right here. But it's not sheared off, but there is a corresponding thing on the slide right here. And I don't know what that guy does either. I don't know if there's supposed to be a spring underneath that. I have no idea. I don't know if that's spring loaded. I don't know. It's just right there. So maybe that's the pin that holds in the, I think it is. It might be the pin that holds in the extractor. That's probably what that is. So this is going to be probably like a proprietary system. So this optics plate only goes into the slide using 3 spaces and not 4 like other optics plates do. So I think this is not a very good design. So the gun shot great, very accurate, light recoiling, very fast, naturally pointing, feels great in my hand, except the gun came apart and that red dot hit me in the face. I'm not going to blame Staccato for that because I thought the optic was on there and it was not. I guess I would say Loctite it down. It was not. So that's not Staccato's fault. That is not Staccato's fault. That's D's fault, and him and I can joke about that later. I'm not mad at him at all. And I just feel bad that I lost a part. But he apologized. I'm like, I forgot to Loctite that thing down. Okay, but I did check it before I went to the range. Then I lost that one spring. So, but I don't like, and this is what I'm going to ding it on points, is this optics plate design. This optics plate needs to be mounted, or whenever you change it out for whichever one you run, you need to have something on this pistol that holds that plate down, because this plate holds in other parts of the gun. I don't like that. So anyway, that is what I discovered. So now we just got to find a spring for this guy. So I guess D will have to call Staccato. I'm sure it's going to be an easy part to replace. And I'm sure that is not the first time one of those has gone missing because of this plate design. So anyway, tell me what you think in the comment section below. And do you guys ever go to the range and have a bunch of problems? Because that's what I had today. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do with these reviews and how I'm going to structure them. This one's not going to be too bad. I will talk about the optics plate issue. And then this one, I just could not get to run well. So do you guys have one of these Kel-Tec CP33s? And if you do, does it run good, or do you have lots of problems? So the word of the day is problem. Use that in the comment section so I know you watched to the end if you're a true vault dweller. So let me know your thoughts. And as always, thanks for watching.